Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Explainer. Today, we're looking at something that could seriously change your entire relationship with the command line. Yeah, we're talking about the Gemini CLI from Google. Let's dive in and see what all the fuss is about.
All right, so if you're a developer, you know this pain all too well, right? You're coding away, you pop over to the terminal, run a command, bam, an error. So what do? You jump to your browser, search Stack Overflow, find a fix, then it's back to the editor. It's this endless cycle of context switching that just completely breaks your flow.
But imagine for a second, what if that entire loop could just happen in one spot? What if your terminal didn't just run commands, but actually understood what you were trying to do? What if it could figure out problems and, get this, fix its own errors?
Well, that is precisely the promise of the Gemini CLI. This isn't just some other utility. The whole idea is to give you an AI partner that lives right there with you in the place you do your most critical work, the terminal.
Okay, so let's break it down. What is it? At its core, it's a completely free open-source AI agent that pipes the power of Google's Gemini models directly into your command line. Basically, it's designed so you can code, debug, and automate things just by talking to it in plain English.
And honestly, when you look at what you get, it's pretty incredible. First off, the free tier is super generous. We're talking 60 requests a minute, 1,000 a day, more than enough for most people. And you're getting access to the big gun, Gemini 2.5 Pro. That gives you this massive 1 million token context window. That's enough for it to understand enormous complex code bases. On top of that, it's extensible with your own custom tools, and the whole thing is open source with an Apache 2.0 license. I mean, that's a seriously powerful package.
Okay, getting started is surprisingly simple. You really only need to know two main things, two simple commands that are like your first superpowers. I'm talking about the @ symbol and the exclamation point. So first up is the @ symbol. This is all about giving the AI context. No more copying and pasting chunks of code or file contents into your prompt. You just reference them. It's a total game changer for how you feed information to the AI. That whole copy-paste dance, gone. So for instance, you could just ask it something like, explain the main function in @.source/app.js. The CLI just reads the file and gets it. And what's really cool is that it's smart enough to respect your git ignore file, so it won't waste time trying to analyze your giant node modules folder or other junk.
All right, your second superpower is the exclamation mark, or the bang symbol. When you put this in front of something, you're basically telling Gemini, hey, I want you to actually run this as a command in my terminal. This is the action part of the equation. It lets the AI reach out and interact directly with your system. So you could have that conversation about your code, and then follow up with, okay, now run the test with @npm test. And that's the basic loop right there. You give it context with @, and you tell it to take action with /. Super simple, super powerful. Okay, but this is where things get really interesting. This is where Gemini CLI stops being just a cool tool and starts feeling more like a real teammate. And to do that, you need to give it a memory, a set of instructions that it can refer back to specifically for the project you're working on.
You know, the best analogy here is to think of it like a really smart junior developer. It's eager, it's fast, but it needs some guidance on how you do things. And you provide that guidance in a special file called gemini.md, right in your project's root folder. You can tell it about your coding style, common commands, anything that's specific to your team. And it's really clever about how it picks up this information. It uses this kind of layered, hierarchical system. It'll start by reading any global instructions you have in your home directory. Then it'll look at the project-level file, and it can even find more specific rules inside subdirectories. So basically, the instructions get more and more specific the deeper into your project structure it goes.
Now, I know what you might be thinking. Letting an AI just write files on your machine, that sounds a little scary, right? Well, that's why there's a super important safety net built in called checkpointing. If you turn this on, the CLI automatically saves a snapshot of your files right before it makes any changes. So if the AI messes something up, no sweat. You just type /restore and boom, everything goes back to how it was. It's literally an undo button for your AI.
All right, so this is where we get to the real magic. When you put all these pieces together, the context, the actions, the memory, and that safety net, you unlock these things called agentic workflows. This is where the AI can start tackling really complex, multi-step problems all by itself.
See, the Gemini CLI works on what's called a reason and act loop. It looks at a problem. It reasons about a possible solution. It acts by using its tools, it sees what happened, and then it reasons about what to do next. It's a continuous cycle. This lets it go way beyond just answering one-off questions. And this self-correction loop is it's incredibly powerful. Let's say you ask it to deploy an app for you, maybe to Cloud Run. So it might write some code, then try to deploy it using a command. But what if the deployment fails? It doesn't just throw up its hands and give you an error. No, it reads the error log. It figures out why it failed. Oh, maybe a port wasn't configured right. And then it actually implements a fix and tries the deployment again. It is literally learning from its mistakes right there in real time. And the real key that unlocks all of this amazing capability, it all comes down to context. A huge amount of context. We are talking about that 1 million token window we mentioned earlier. That's what allows it to basically hold an entire complex code base in its brain at once, making its decisions and actions so much more accurate and relevant.
So how does Gemini CLI stack up against the other AI coding tools out there? You've got other great tools, right? Claude Code is amazing with Git automation. Cursor has that deep integration with your IDE. But Gemini CLI really carves out its own space. For one, that free tier is just unbeatable. Two, it's a genuinely open source agent you can tweak and extend yourself. And three, that massive context window is a true game changer. And it's all happening where you live, the terminal.
So, when you step back and look at all this, what does it mean for the future of how we build software? It really feels like we're standing on the edge of a new horizon. This is way more than just a simple productivity hack.
What we're seeing here is a fundamental shift in how we talk to our machines. We're moving away from this old model of command and control, where we have to be super explicit and precise with every single instruction. Instead, we're walking into this new era of what some people are calling vibe coding or intent-based development. An era where we just describe the what, the outcome we want, and our tools are smart enough to figure out the how.
And that leaves us with a really fascinating and kind of huge question to think about. What happens when your terminal stops being just a dumb executor of commands and instead becomes a true collaborative partner? What does that do to our workflows, to our creativity, to the very definition of what a developer is? The possibilities, well, they're really just starting to unfold.